Not bad, not bad. Next up is the material select. So first of all, let's get ourselves familiar with the template of the material select. So we have mat select from the library instead of the native select, and inside we have the mat option instead of option, native option. And this has made mat label to just display favorite food, which is basically what you see here as the label before you select anything, and once you select, you have it there on top of the selected food. And all these material elements are wrapped inside um, the mat form field, which is in the end just a wrapper so that material applies some styling for the text fields. And so what we want to do is something almost similar to the native select. So this is our first idea. So I'm commenting this out, and for this case, we want to query the material select instead, and that one has its own test ID, mat select food. So we wanted to use that, and let's make sure that we are really getting that element by screen debug, and then uh, giving it the native select. Well, not native select anymore, so let's rename this to material select. Okay, also I am going to comment this out for the moment, and let's see if this is actually querying the element that we want. Yes, it is. So this is what the log shows. It's the mat select, and inside there is bunch of stuff like it's not what we see in the mat select and mat option. Well, the mat options are kind of not here. Interesting. We will find out why. So I'm getting the material select, and now I want to select an option. Let's say, as usual, I'm gonna select the pizza. So, and would that actually work? Hitting save, test is rerunning, and oops, we have an error. Value pizza not found in options. Well, that actually makes sense because we don't have options as we just saw. So material kind of doing something for our mat options. They are not there. Let's also check the dev tool and inspect this element. So we can see mat select like we see in the terminal, and then these divs which are empty. But the interesting thing is when I click here, if you noticed, there is some difference in the page here happened to this div here. I will do that again. You see that div was flashed in a second, and if I open this one, I will end up finding the elements related to the menu of the options. Interesting. So material as the options in a different place called CDK overlay container. And the most important thing and the interesting thing is this CDK overlay container lives outside the app where all the HTML related to our Angular application lives in. This is one thing. And the other thing, if we compare this to a native select, options are always inside the select, unlike the material select. So as a conclusion, the user event library is not compatible to work with a material select element or the material library in general. So we cannot use user event, unfortunately. So what I'm thinking to do now is to just use the fire event like we did earlier. So fire event and then change. So this is our second um, our second idea, how we would eventually succeed on selecting the material select. And here I am going to pass target. My target has the value pizza. So we are referring to the option that has the pizza. And let's try again. So the given element does not have a value. So I'm pretty sure that our code is correct, and this is how we should fire an event for the select, at least for the native select. So I'm showing all these steps just to show you how you probably will struggle to unit test one materials element in your application. So I'm going to tell you why this is not working. So if I go back to the browser and then I go to Sources tab, and here I would like to select Event Listener Breakpoint from Control, and it would be the change. So this will make the browser stops whenever an event change was detected, and it will stop in the code that will handle this change event. For the native select, as we all know that when I select, the change event will be triggered, and here the browser is stopping right at that moment. This is kind of like confirms that the element has the change event listener. What if I do this to the material select? So I click here and select anything. Nothing happened. Well, that's kind of confirms that the material select doesn't have a change event listener set up, which means we cannot use the fireEvent.change, and maybe that's why we have this error here. So now, as a last resort, before going to something very interesting to solve this, I will show you another idea which is gonna work eventually, but that's not the good practice. And it would be just using click events. we click once on the material select and then we click on the option. So we can do that. So instead of fireEvent.change, I use fireEvent.click. And that's all. And then if I run this, something very interesting is happening here. We have this CDK overlay now appearing because we selected the material select. And now it's being added to the DOM like we saw in the browser. And now it is possible to find the option. So selecting an option by querying first of all the option. It's called material option with the data test ID value. And here, let's correct this. We wanted to do this eventually because this is not a property of the mat option. And the value would be pizza emoji. And now I click on the option. So what happened now? Found multiple elements by data test ID. Why is that? Do we have multiple values? Yes, we do. So I will comment the native select out because we don't need it. This will work, and yeah, we have the emoji in the selected section. So this works, but this is not.
The component that we are dealing with is coming from a third-party library, Angular material. So imagine the authors of the library decided to change the implementation details of the component, and they want to introduce the change event back to the select or anything else that they could do. Imagine that update will break our test because it's different. The clicks won't work anymore. So this is kind of like an example. And if that happens, we don't like to go and update our broken test every time a library updates their code. So what is the solution then?